I think this is the first time in a long time that I have actually read a magical girl manga and jumped back in to this genre. This is pretty exciting. I think I want to read more in this genre now. Hello friends, Laura A. Grace here. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel for the first time. Either way, I am so excited that you are here. Today we are doing a manga review and I am just so excited. I discovered this series a while back, like a long time, like a year ago, I think at this point, from Shae at ShaeGeeksOut. She had made a comment that she felt it was better than Sailor Moon, and I was so shocked because, you know, Sailor Moon is so iconic and I loved Sailor Moon as a kid. Like, Sailor Moon was my jam. I still have not actually read the manga though, even as an adult. I think I read a little bit of volume 1 and I don't know, I was not able to get past what I had read. It wasn't bad, but it was so different than what I remembered. I was like, I don't know, I think this is not the right time. So anyway, with that said, I decided to go ahead and check out the manga series Magic Knight Rayearth, and oh my goodness, I have to say I agree with Shae on this. This series is so phenomenal and these hardbacks are everything. I'm not sure if I can hold up the whole entire series without it falling over, but we're about to attempt and try. There we go. It is 6 volumes. I did not include the 2 illustration books that came with the box set, but oh my goodness, this series, it truly swept me off my feet. This is my first official clamp title that I have read, and I feel now that I could read more clamp titles. If you checked out, I think it was my top 5 Wednesday video, Current Obsessions, I had mentioned after reading part 1 that I was really nervous to ever start another clamp title after that, because oh my goodness, like the plot twist was just wow. I mean, I just did not see it coming. I don't know how anybody saw that coming, to be honest. Like, that was just one of the greatest, if not the greatest plot twist I have seen in manga. Like, it was so shocking. It was so shocking, I couldn't even cry. I don't know how many times I read the end of part 1 because I was just trying to wrap my mind around what I had just read. But let's rewind. If you're not familiar with Magic Knight Rayearth, which I confess I had not been familiar with this title at all, I had never heard about it. I don't think had ever even seen it, to be truthful. But Magic Knight Rayearth is awesome. That's one thing you definitely need to know. But Magic Knight Rayearth is about 3 different girls. We have Hikaru right here. Then we have Umi, who is our water girl, basically, and then we have Fu, who is our wind girl. And then Hikaru, as you can see, has fire, so she's our fire girl. But these 3 girls, they are on a school field trip. They go to Tokyo Tower. As they're there, suddenly this great burst of bright light happens, and suddenly they are in this other dimension, this other world, and they're like falling, and they're like, oh my goodness, what is happening? They find out that they are the Magic Knights, and they have basically been summoned or called to this world to help free the pillar, who is the person basically that was keeping this whole world, Sephiroth, safe. They have to basically embark on this journey of sorts. I was about to say adventure, but I feel like it's more of a personal journey together to get their armor, to grow in strength, and they have to basically free their like ruin gods, I think is how you say it. Now, it's really interesting. I will just say very briefly that there is much more to that. There's a really interesting translation note right here that explains how there's really not an English word that fits for what they are. So, but I'm just going to say that that's what they call them, but they have to go find the ruin gods, and the ruin gods are going to help them defeat the great high priest here, who's basically the one that has captured, I don't know how much of all of this is in the blurb, so I'm trying to do my best to keep this spoiler free, but they have to defeat the great high priest and free the princess, who is the pillar of this land and keeps the world safe. That is the basic nutshell, I feel like, for the whole series, and it is so good. Like, honestly, I would say that this is like Sailor Moon, well, more of like Magical Girl meets Gundam. I was blown away. I loved part 1 so very much. Oh my goodness, I just felt swept into this world. I wanted to know what happened next. I wanted to see what these girls would do, how their friendship would grow, and each of them have these great personalities that are just so them, so individual, but when they come together and seeing them care for one another is just everything. It is honestly one of the strongest parts of this whole series. It is one of my favorites. It is the highlight. I just cannot get enough of the friendship vibes. I really can't. And how they grow just individually, and like I said, then seeing them grow together just as a team, as the Magic Knights team, is so beautiful. It is so wonderful. I could not get enough of it. There are just times and scenes where I just read Reddit and I'm just like, this is what I love. I love that so many manga just focus and have that friendship theme of growing together, and how truly none of us are meant to be alone. Like, we need a community. We need people who care for us, who see us for who we are, and just support us all the way. Yes, that is one of my favorite parts of Magic Knight Rayearth, and definitely one that I would just want to reread again, specifically for that theme. I feel when I was reading reviews of this series that people were like, this isn't that strong of a series, it didn't age well, or that it was repetitive, and some of those things may be true. There is a little bit of repetitiveness, but in spite of that, I feel like the themes and the messages of this series completely outweigh that. I feel like in volumes 1, 2, and 3, for the first part, you see these women grow. You see them see how important their friendship is with these ladies, despite that they have barely known each other. They didn't know each other when they were back at Tokyo Tower and then pulled into this world Sephiroth. They didn't know each other. And I guess one could argue that really it was their very interesting journey and having to gain their armor and having to fight monsters and beasts and then, you know, just face these odds is what helped them to appreciate their friendship. And yeah, I guess that is part of it. But I feel like it just more than them being thrown together. Like they genuinely had to learn and come to see how valuable friendship is. It was just so beautiful. It was just so beautiful. I mean, I can't even say which of the girls is my favorite because I loved how each of them had different struggles. And I feel like Hikaru probably had the least amount of struggle out of the 3 girls. And so Umi and Fu really, I feel like all of them grew, but I feel like they grew a lot, and I really just loved their personal journeys and what they saw in each other, what they saw in themselves, and who they wanted to be, and how these girls helped each other shape and become the women that they were dreaming of being in the beginning. Now, with that said, this makes it sound like this is such a beautiful and light story. Wrong! Wrong. It is a beautiful story, but at the end of part 1, it really does take a tragic turn, and I feel like the beginning of the second part really explains and answers the question of why did Clamp do this? Why did they make this choice? Why did this happen to the characters? I mean, so many bombardment questions of why? Or at least that was for me. Like, I couldn't understand. I mean, I don't know if I could say I could appreciate what happened, but I couldn't understand why they took that turn of events. Not that it took away my enjoyment from the story, but it was a question of like, I want to know why did they decide to do this? And wow, it was very thought-provoking. I won't go in depth with that because that's a huge spoiler, and I really feel like the second part of this series really makes the reader think. I know I did, and it asks big questions that just really make you stop and reconsider what would have been your answer in the first part with you knowing what you did, and then suddenly finding out huge information going into the second part. Would your answer change? How would it change? You just have a new heart, I feel like, for these young women. And as you're learning backstories and you're discovering new things, and the second part, I will say, was super awesome, especially when it came to the word building in this one. There's so much to this dimension / world, land, however you want to say it. There's so much to it that was so great. And I'm just like, I think my only, not issue, but the one thing that I was most bummed, because this volume I did not love as much as I love the other ones, and that's only because I feel like this series is quick. I wouldn't say rush because I feel like rush implies something different, but I do feel like this volume specifically was a little bit more rushed in what I wanted. I would have loved to see this whole world expanded. I would love to have been able to go to these other countries that we see in this volume and just really be able to explore more about those characters. I love the whole cast of characters, and especially when we get new people in this one, it was so great. I'm like, Clamp, if you could have just made this like 10 volumes, I mean, it was still great. I still love the series, but that is one thing I truly really wanted, is I just wanted more of this world. I really love the new introduction of characters that were in this volume, and I believe, yeah, that they were in this volume too. Just, it was so great. It was so great to just see the word building and how unique this whole story world is, because one of the things that they talk about in the first volume is that Sephiroth is not ruled, but the will is the strongest. So whoever has the strongest will, the strongest heart that believes, is really not dictates the world, but it's just how the world is set up. And I love that. I mean, I loved that thought, that belief, that process. The one who believes the strongest and has the strongest will really just determines how things are going to be in this world. And I wish there was so much more I could say, because as you're learning more about Sephiroth and you're learning about this land, there's things that come up, and I'm like, Clamp, you put such detail and thought behind the word building behind Sephiroth that I have not seen in another manga like this. Granted, I have not read much fantasy manga before this right now, but I loved what I saw. It honestly just reminded me of writing fantasy years ago, and how like I love putting not Easter eggs, but just thought behind why the world is this way. And I feel like Clamp did this, and it just shines. I mean, honestly, like, you just have to keep reading, because the more you read, the more you learn interesting tidbits of how this world works, why these things are happening. I mean, because it's so much more than just, I think it was Fu who said it. She talks about how this seems like it's just another role-playing game where you have to go save the princess, you have to do this. There is so much more to that. Yes, I think the great part of part one is that it does replicate some of those beats, and it does feel very much like a video game. But then you get to the second part, and it totally debunks all of that, and you are just open with this new world, this new idea, these new thoughts of how are you personally as a reader going to move forward. And I just, man, the final pages of part 3, just parts at the end, the whole ending, I mean, those last few pages were everything. And I honestly wish I could just talk so in depth, because I felt it was just so very powerful. I mean, we see throughout this series of just the importance of self, the importance of other people, the importance of fighting for you and believing with all of your heart, having the strongest will, not for, yes, from sometimes for other people, for the ones that you love and for your friends, but also because you don't want to have regret in your heart. You don't want to look back and regret that you did or did not do something. That was so beautiful. And then the talk about just in general about, I want to say this one thing. Sorry, I was trying to think here. I would say just the community, that really everybody needs somebody, and the ending is so beautiful. It is so worth it. Even if you feel that there are parts where you're like, I'm really not digging this, get to the end. I'm not going to say that it pays off, because I loved everything that happens, well, except for that one part, that one huge plot twist, but I love the story. I really love the messages. I'm so grateful that Clamp shared this story. I'm so glad it's a thing, and that we get these really awesome, oh, I fell again, these awesome illustration books in the box set. And with that, these art books are absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. I think I could share a little bit from the first one without spoilers. I remember when I first did the unboxing, and I totally accidentally saw spoilers for myself when I was looking through and just skimming through, because oh my goodness, just look at that. I mean, I said that in that Current Obsessions manga, that, you know, even if you're not a fan of Clamp, even if you're like, well, I don't really like their storytelling, or, you know, for whatever reason or whatever, you cannot hate on their art. Their art is just absolutely stunning. It's just so beautiful. I mean, it's just gorgeous. I mean, I love the attention to detail. And that was one really fun thing, is at the back of this one is that they give little notes about each of the illustrations that are in this book, and they talked about the attention to detail, and that was just really, really cool. I thought that was a fun little tidbit that they included, and learning more about the characters. I know when I first started Magic Knight Rayearth, because I did start it before this box set, and that was when I think it was the Dark Horse Omnibus, and they have like little bios about the characters, and that was one thing I was really hoping that we would get in these illustration books. We didn't quite get that, but I was like, man, I need to go find the Dark Horse Omnibus and just go read it because I remember really, really enjoying it. This whole manga is just absolutely so beautiful. It is such an amazing story. Seeing, again, these girls' journey. I feel like part one was my favorite, and I do think maybe because it was lighter and I was just on the edge of my seat, I wanted to personally see how these girls could overcome, what would happen, what were they going to do, were they going to be successful in the reason that they had been summoned and called to this world. I wanted to see, I needed to know the answers, and so I feel like the second part was still great, but it just made me think more. It had more of a sadder overtone where I feel like more was at stake. And I guess that is true. I mean, there was definitely high stakes in the first part, but there's a different kind of stakes in this one. There's just so many good things. There's so many good things and great things that happen. But the first part is definitely, yes, these ladies' journey, seeing them rise up to being the Magic Knights and seeing how they live that out and how even outside of the label Magic Knights, who they are as a young woman, who they are to each other. I mean, again, it goes all back to friendship and the people that they meet and just seeing each of them. I mean, I loved all of the characters. I really did. Even the villains, like, they're just all great. And I feel like you see each character is greatly motivated. Granted, our Magic Knights are very much motivated and just not fueled, but that their will, their hearts are so strong, especially Hikaru. I think maybe deep down, maybe she was my favorite. I feel especially as a leader, and I think I did mention her in a top 5 Wednesday video of great leaders. Her heart, oh my goodness, her heart is just so beautiful, and another character says that about her, and that was one really cool thing, is that since in Sephiroth, the heart that believes is the strongest and having the strongest will and such, while I feel like there is a little bit of very low-key romance, and it was so sweet. Man, I was here for that ship. I was like, I need to go see if I could find some merch of that ship because I was totally here for it. It was so sweet. It was so precious. Thank you, Clamp. Oh my goodness. I could just read like a little side stories about them. It was so good. But anyway, I totally just got myself sidetracked talking about that. Oh, that's what I was trying to say. That was what I was trying to say, is that I really loved how the heart was precious. Like the outside, yes, these are beautiful young women, but I feel like it was their heart that made them maybe attractive to other people, that it was just a matter of heart and not a matter of their looks. Even though, like I said, these young women are all very beautiful, but I really just loved how the heart was valued and how it was precious. And sorry, I was thinking about the little bit of romance, how good it was and how it was everything, and I just loved it so very much. I just loved it so very much. I was like, this is a time where it's dangerous to be a pin maker because I'm like, there's so many pins that I want. Like, this series was just very deeply inspiring, I feel, for me, and I just feel I read it at exactly the right time. The friendships and seeing them grow and the questions that were asked, and just, I think I have it saved on my iPod. There was, I think it was Fu said to Umi, they're having a really great discussion, and I think she was saying, you know, we should share with people because, you know, if they're going through the same thing that we are, we can come up with a plan together and move forward out of the, not out of this pain, but move forward in this pain, in this hurt, and come to a place where we feel less lonely. And I just really, really love that. I hope I didn't butcher that scene. It was so beautiful and just very moving. And I feel like this series is going to stick with me for a long time. I feel that it's very iconic. Maybe it does not have quite the same hype and the same love that Sailor Moon does, but that makes it no less special in my opinion, and definitely deserves to be read and deserve to be loved on because these girls are so amazing and they're so young, and for them to experience, I mean, there's a character, Guru Clef is his name. He says something about their hearts and how they have scars there, and it's so true. They have battle scars there, and how they grew and the tragedy that they experienced was so heartbreaking, but yet seeing them never give in, especially in that third volume. Again, they never give in. They are determined, no matter what someone may say they can or cannot do. They are not stopping because they love each other and they are fighting for themselves. They're fighting for one another. A beautiful and just powerful message. So yes, All in all, I love this series. I am so glad that Maeve recommended the series to Shae, and then Shae went out and said it's better than Sailor Moon because it got my attention. I don't know if I would have picked it up otherwise, to be honest, and I'm just so glad that I did because so many beautiful themes. I mean, the art is absolutely gorgeous. The word building is just really, really great. I really love it. I was like, yes, I need more fantasy because I love the word building just so incredibly much right now, and the characters and just the whole cast. Everybody is so greatly motivated and they're learning, like not just our magic knights here, but every single person is growing and changing for the better, at least hopefully. I mean, there's so many great just motivations, and the person that believes the strongest and has the strongest will, I mean, it's just such a great message, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I loved this series. It was such an incredible ride and adventure and pulled me in. I was hooked to just reading about our magic knights and seeing how they would overcome, see what they would do, and it was great. It was so wonderful, and I just be with these girls on their journey, learn from them, grow with them, change with them, because it's going to be an unforgettable reading adventure for sure. If you've read Magic Knight Rayearth, I would love to hear your thoughts. Did you enjoy it? Who's your favorite girl? Or if they're all the girls, what did you enjoy most about this story? I would love to hear from you. And if you guys haven't read Magic Knight Rayearth, what are some fantasy or magical girl manga that you have read? I would love to know. I feel like I want to read more magical girl for sure after this. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!